All right, hello again. So this is the main reason I wanted to do this video was to talk about how to properly focus and stigmate your diffraction patterns. This is something I've touched on or discussed in previous videos, but I really wanted to, you know, do a specific video on this because it's a little bit more nuanced than I think most people kind of realize. Especially, when you've got this three condenser system with the probe corrector, that adds some complications to it. So I've got the aluminum diffraction standard sample in here, um, which is perfect for doing this. It's easier to show this with a polycrystalline sample than with single crystal, although you could do this with a single crystal, but this just makes it a little bit easier. Um, so so let's start by we'll take it in two parts here. So we're talking about stigmating the diffraction pattern and focusing the diffraction pattern, and they're both, of course, a little bit intertwined. Okay, so first of all, right, we're set up for TEM illumination. So we're talking about parallel beam diffraction patterns here. We're not talking about, seabed or anything like that. You see that my beam right now spread out is nice and circular. So I've corrected my condenser astigmatism. You do want to make sure that, everything is obviously well aligned in TEM mode here. So we can go ahead and quickly do this. Okay, and then make sure the sample, there we go. All right, and then rotation center here. Rotation center looks good. And then last thing is the condenser center TEM. This lines up C2 and C3. So this is off maybe a little bit. Okay, wrong way. Okay, that looks good. The other thing too, if you have the probe corrector on this, you want to make sure that your exported elements are all zeroed out. When you're in nanoprobe mode, which we're not in right now, but as we've seen, like that can mess up TEM mode if you have that off. So, all right, at this point though, we are ready, and we're at eccentric height as well. We are ready to go into diffraction mode. So I'm going to push diffraction. Okay, and click natural here. And I'm going to click high resolution here to blow things up a little more. I'm going to turn off my screen markings. And so the first thing we're going to do is stigmate this, okay? So to stigmate this, we need something to stigmate on. So really, the best way to do this is with the objective aperture. So if you find the apertures panel, you can click objective, and then you want to use one of these smaller ones. So let's put the 30 in. Okay, I'm going to switch this to HDR, and then I'm going to adjust this so I'm outside of the direct beam. Okay, and now if I take my focus knob, okay, now what I'm doing here is two things. I'm trying to focus the objective aperture edge, and I'm trying to get that aperture edge sharp, okay? So right about here, and then if I click on I have my diffraction stigmators. So if I throw this off here, right? So you see the difference here? You can see I'm getting stretching back and forth, right? So you're trying to minimize this. Okay. That looks pretty good. Okay. So we're stigmating. Now the lens you're stigmating here is what they call the diffraction lens. If you pull up system status, it's this lens right here, which is really the first intermediate, but they call it diffraction. But that's what you're stigmating here. Okay. So we have the image of that objective aperture as sharp as we can get it here. Again, you can see what's happened if I tweak this. Again, I'm going back and forth here. Okay, that looks pretty good. This defocus value should be pretty small if you're focusing this properly. Okay, you shouldn't see this like off by a whole lot. Okay, all right. So we're properly focused now. Okay, so I'm going to pull out my objective aperture here. I don't need it anymore. Okay, now we have to look at the direct spot here. Now you see this is no longer circular. Okay, this is no longer circular. So unfortunately, what this means now, the only way to fix this is we can come to the condenser stigmator and do this. Okay. So you might ask, well, why should we have to do that? Well, part of this is because we have the corrector in the part of the optics here. Okay. So if we click on condenser, you can adjust this to make the spot round. Okay, and then the other thing too here, I'm gonna click none, come up to beam settings, expand, check multifunction Y. You can spread this out here. Okay, and then you can really see. Okay, that's what you should be getting. So that's a little bit off, it looks like. Now, I want to spread this out a little bit more here to maybe a few, yeah, something about like 6 or 7 micrometers. Let's do this again. That's what a circle looks like. Okay, so there's a little bit going back and forth here on that side of crossover, but I think we should still be okay. Yeah. So we want to be okay. There we go. There we go. Okay, so it's the same. Focus this to as tight as you can get it. Again, I have this check MFY, find focus back focal plane. And then we're good to go. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to check off high resolution. Okay. And then turn diffraction off. Okay. And let's take a look here and see Yeah, see, we had to make our beam a little bit off here. Here, let me go back to diffraction here. Click diffraction. Oops, sorry. Okay, why was that not properly stigged before? And that looks a lot better now. Okay, let's take that out. Okay, stigmate this spot. Let me put that, I don't know why that would matter here. It shouldn't. Unless I was accidentally stigmating the wrong thing. Yeah, so that looks still in focus here. Yeah. So which aperture you use for this, it should have no bearing. The smaller one's going to be a little easier to see what you want to see, so I was probably getting it mixed up between the stigmators. Anyways, use diffraction stig to stigmate the aperture edge and use focus in here to focus on the aperture edge, okay? And then you can use condenser. Well, spread the beam out, right? Spread the beam out here so you get like a few micrometers, and then you can stigmate with condenser if this is not circular, and then you want to focus it with this, okay? With MFY back focal plane, okay? Yeah, see, this looks much better now. I was going to say we shouldn't have seen that level of. Okay, that looks good. That level of astigmatism back in TEM mode. So let me turn off diffraction here. Okay, yeah. So the beam still looks basically circular. There's a little bit of asymmetry there, but not a whole lot. Okay. So yeah, and again, now if we had a system without a probe corrector, we shouldn't have to do that. Okay. As long as the condenser stig is fine, we have a nice symmetric beam on the sample. Doing the diffraction stig should be enough at that point, okay? The reason we have to do that little additional manipulation with the condenser stig again is because we have the probe corrector there, okay? But yes, so that's what you have to do here. That's how properly focusing. The other thing, of course, too, this is a 3 condenser system, so you're going to have parallelism over a range, okay? If you have a 2 condenser system, you're only going to have parallelism at a specific value, okay? So you're going to, in that case, you would use your intensity knob here to adjust your diffraction pattern until the spot is focused. And it's going to be focused just at one setting for your C2 lens. Okay? All right, let me spread this out till we'll go 4 micrometers here. Okay. So we can see, right, so here's our value here for the stig here. Let me go ahead and turn off high resolution. And we'll put in the beam stop here. Turn off the stig. Okay, so let's acquire some patterns here. So you definitely want to use a beam stop when you're doing polycrystalline diffraction. There's no point in collecting that. Let's put this all the way down here to minimum. Okay, so that's still a little too high. It's a great looking pattern, but still a little too intense. So one thing we can do is we can block this off all the way, okay? So let's put this in all the way, and let's see if that takes care of that. So that dropped the current down just a little bit more. Yeah, so that took care of that, okay? And again, we're illuminating a really wide area right now. Let me right click crosshair, and I can use my diffraction shift here to center this again, making sure I don't, well, you want the beam. Unfortunately, we can't position the beam stop manually here, so we have to just leave it like this. Turn off the crosshair. Okay, this is looking good. If we go up one click, yeah, so then it's too high. Let's see, if we increase this, do we end up with, yeah, so we have that same issue here. Normally I wouldn't, we're getting a lot of signal right now because we're illuminating a really wide area. So, but here, what I can show you is I'm going to turn off the, okay, so this is the stigmator setting. If I turn this off, okay, see the difference? On, off, on. Let me scroll in here, okay? See the difference? The rings get a little more spread out, right? When I turn off the diffraction stig, okay? So yeah, that's how you know you have this set properly, okay? All right. Now again, of course, let me put the screen in. You can use the selected area aperture with this as well. Let's put, I'm not sure with this, if we put in the 200, how much field, okay, so that's field limiting, so that's less than we had, so let's put that in there. Let's move so we're not over whole. That should cut down our direct signal. Okay, so yeah, we saw a big drop in the current. All right, let's see how that looks. Yeah, still a little too high. All right, beam stop in all the way. Okay, so yeah, this is a little bit lower than what we were getting. So anyways, let's see. We go up. Yeah, still too high. All right, let's do an acquisition here. So we got, let's do 2 frames. We'll do 100 frames at 2.5 seconds. Whoops. Yeah, looks good. I got a little high there, but we should be okay. Again, that's 2.5 times 100 frames. So yeah, that should be the right number here in terms of milliseconds. We can't go any shorter than that. So the only other thing left to do, yeah, so this is already, see it's creeping up here a little. So, I mean, yeah, what we could do here actually is we could cut the spot number down, which is probably the best thing to do here, or we could put in a smaller objective aperture. I mean, if we're trying to get like nice proper rings here, we would want to do that. We'd want to use a bigger aperture here. So here, let me go back to diffraction or back to image mode here. Okay, if we bump this up to 6, let's take out that. And see, now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to do a little bit of work here. Can take a look at the pattern here real quick. Switch to high res mode, take out the stop. Okay, so it doesn't look too bad here. Yeah, so there's still some Still some astigmatism here. Okay, so then this we have to correct now because we changed the spot size. We have to correct this with the condenser stick here. Sorry, let me spread this out again. Okay, that's better. All right, so let's put in the objective here just to make sure that that's still in focus. Yeah, so this still looks good here. Let's make sure. Yeah, so that's still good. Okay, let's go back to image mode. You can also do this with, well, again, right, with doing single crystal work, that's really, that's such a high dynamic situation. It's hard to kind of apply that to what you deal with polycrystalline stuff. All right, so let's spread this out and let's put in, not objective. Let's put in our big, not the biggest, but second biggest. Okay, go to diffraction. Okay, so we already have a pretty good reduction in the current. Let's turn this off. Yeah, so we nice reduction in the current here, down to less than 100 picoamps. So let's see what we're getting now. Yeah, so much better. So we're only down here around like 2,000 counts. So let's increase this. We should be able to go basically, yeah, at 100 milliseconds. Yeah, you see what also happens by changing the spot number. We got the spots looking a little tighter here. This is basically the same area we were doing before. So let's go ahead. Let's see. So if we do, yes, if we do 10 seconds each at 100 so 10 seconds split over 100 frames, that should be 100 milliseconds a frame. All right, so let's see what we get here. And as a result, and the nice thing with this is we didn't have to completely block the direct beam either. Well, we blocked the center part, which is the most intense, of course. Yeah, good. Yep, not clipping the signal at all. Let me move this all the way into the beam path. Yeah, so what this tells me is where we were getting our max signal wasn't even in the direct beam. So, we're probably not going to see a huge difference in the appearance of well, this does kind of spread or even out the intensity a little more when we block off the direct beam. So yeah, it's probably best to do this with the polycrystalline samples. But we're not seeing a drop in terms of the max counts. I think we were seeing a drop. Let me pull this back here. Yeah, so we saw a drop here in terms of what the histogram was telling us. So, but again, the histogram is not accurate in terms of, max counts. All right, let's go ahead and do another acquire here. This is with the direct beam blocked all the way off. Beautiful. Okay, so this was spot size 6. This was spot size 4. So there's a little bit. Yeah, is there really a difference here in terms of the rings? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it looks like they're basically the same. So I think you might see a little bit of a difference in terms of the direct spot, but as far as the rings themselves, it's really pretty negligible. The point of this was, right, I wanted to show you how to properly stigmate and focus the diffraction pattern. So again, so just to summarize, let me put this back in. Okay, switch this to high resolution mode. Okay, and let me put in objective here. Okay, so you need to use your objective aperture. Okay, focus on this aperture edge, stigmate the image of this with your diffraction stigmators. Okay, that's what you have to do first. If you have any astigmatism left, and take out the direct or the beam stop. If you have any left, you have to stigmate this with condenser, okay? With the 3 condenser system, again, you should have this option to do multi-function Y fine focus to focus this to a spot, and then you would want to use condenser here to get out any remnant astigmatism you have here, okay? So this is what we have here, perfectly optimized. So let's look at the difference here. So that's with the diffraction stig set properly. Let's set this off. And let's go back to condenser and let's set this off too. Okay, so that's with it off. So let's see if there's a difference here in our pattern. Yeah, it looks like it's kind of subtle. That's with it on. That's with it on. So yeah, it's not huge when you do that. So, oh, whoops. Well, then I'm not looking at the live. Um, okay. That's diffraction stig off. That's condenser stig off. Yeah, there's a little bit of a difference, but it's not huge. Part of that, of course, is because you have the selected area aperture in. Um, that kind of helps a little bit with that. But anyways, that's the proper way to do it here. So, okay. All right. So that's the additional video I wanted to do about proper focusing and stigmating of your diffraction pattern. So as always, you have any questions or comments? Oh, one other thing here I want to mention. So if you change the camera length here, you're probably going to have to redo your diffraction focus and maybe the diffraction stig a little bit because you're changing your diffraction lens value when you do that, right? So if we go, let's see, let's go up here. Yeah, so you can see I changed my diffraction lens value a little bit when that happened. Okay, so that's the other thing to keep in mind. All right. With that, hope everything's going good. Not much of 2024 left here, so but hope the rest of your 2024 goes well, and please let me know if you have any questions.